Commvault Training, episode 25. Definitely you're going to get these questions if you work, if you're trying to go for an interview in Commvault, but also they want you to have some VMware experience, and depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to someone who is like the interviewing you, who is expects you to know this, maybe your title, you're going for a title of like Commvault engineer, they're probably going to ask you these questions. Okay, so they're going to ask you, explain the VSA backup workflow. This would be the VSA, so the virtual server agent. The virtual server agent is it's installed in the proxy machine. This is the agent that manages the snapshots and the backups and indexing processes and communicates directly with vCenter. But they're going to ask you about, explain the VSA backup workflow. And you're going to say, Commvault instructs VSA proxy. The VSA calls the vCenter API. The snapshot's created. The disk is mounted to the proxy. The data is read and sent to media agent, and the snapshot is deleted. They're asking another question they may ask you. What are the different transport modes and when to use them? So you have the SAN, which is this transport mode. SAN, this is best performance, it requires SAN access. The hot add, which is excellent for virtual proxies. And the NBD, which is for the network-based failback option. Another question I ask you is, how do you achieve application consistent backups? And you might answer this by saying, you select the quiescent guest file system and the subclient settings, which uses VMware tools to flush application data before snapshotting. Another question I may ask you, what is the role of the media agent in a VMware backup? You could answer by saying, the media agent manages the storage target, which would be the disk or the cloud or even the tape library, and writes the data received from the VSA proxy. Another question I may ask you, how does Commvault handle incremental VMware backups? You might answer by saying, it uses the VMware change block tracking, CBT, change block tracking, to identify the changed blocks since the last backup, ensuring only delta data is transferred. Another question I may ask you, how to restore specific files from a VMware backup. You might answer by saying, use the browse and restore feature in the command center. You can also do it from the Java console. To navigate to the indexed file system, select the files and restore them directly to the VM. Another question I may ask you, this will be the last one in this one. How do you troubleshoot a failed VMware backup job? You might answer by saying, check the vCenter for snapshot failures, verify the VSA proxy connectivity, and you check storage capacity and review the VSA logs or the CVD logs. Yeah, these are some questions they're going to maybe ask you in your interview with Commvault, if you're going for like a Commvault engineer job and you happen to be doing, or the job calls for you to also back up VMs. On another note, I've seen some companies out there who are thinking of going from VMware to Hyper-V, and I just got to tell you that there's a market out there for that. If I'm Microsoft right now, what am I doing? I see all these customers coming from a vCenter or from VMware environment, Broadcom, to wanting to go to Hyper-V. And what I'm doing is I'm creating, if I'm Microsoft, I'm creating a Microsoft version that you can download, or it's a free add-in, let's say, like a distributed virtual switch. Like in vCenter, there's a thing called distributed virtual switch which keeps track of if you have a large network, you have multiple networks in the same that have to connect to the same vCenter, which is common MSPs. You definitely need to keep track of that. And as it stands now, as I know, I don't know a lot about Hyper-V. I know quite a bit, but as it pertains to multiple environments, VMware is it. And I don't think Hyper-V has anything remotely related to the same thing as a distributed virtual switch. Now, Hyper-V does have things that that are beneficial. For instance, licensing. You buy one Windows license, and you get Hyper-V. You can install Hyper-V depending on what type of hardware you have. It supports virtualization, and yeah, that's the thing about that. But Broadcom or VMware, if I think they're trying to, I don't know what their business plan is, why they're doing this to the market, but it's not going to work well for them because some other company is going to go and, like, I think Oracle, if you're asking my for the future, let's say, I think Oracle is going to end up buying Proxmox, Proxmox. Proxmox is a virtualization tool similar to vCenter. It's not similar to vCenter in the same thing as vCenter, but it's got its benefits. For instance, the one benefit of Proxmox is you can install like version 6 on old hardware, and you can still simulate VMware essentially, or not VMware, but VMs. My lab environment that I have is actually Proxmox version 6. And I know there's version 9 is out now. You could put it on any hardware essentially. It's perfect. It's great. It's great for hobbyists, for home lab essentially. Production environment, it's just not there yet. I think there's a paid version. But if I'm Oracle, I'm buying Proxmox, even though it's open source, and just leaving it open source, and then taking a team, dumping a couple $2 million into it, whatever it is, 20 million, 30 million, whatever, and put them on developing the same type of things that VMware has just to get that market. I think it's something like $5,000 per socket or something like that for vCenter. And some companies have hundreds of sockets that hundreds that they pay for. So you're probably looking at a company that's going to save $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 a year in licensing if they go away from VMware and they go to Proxmox. Maybe Oracle's going to buy Proxmox and develop it. Yeah, so just so that there's another player in the market, because right now it's just VMware and nobody else. And there's Hyper-V, but Hyper-V is good if you have one network, but if you get multiple networks, you're going to have a challenge. In my opinion, my professional opinion, working with this stuff. I'll tell you that it's not just me thinking out loud; it's reality. MSPs are not going to go and work. The MSPs are not going to buy Hyper-V. They're going to go to their customer and say, "Hey, customer, we have Hyper-V. By the way, this is such a great thing." Unless the customer says, "Yeah, okay, great," and they're just going to want to stick to VMware, which most companies will want to do, and they're going to have to charge the companies the overhead. So if I'm MSP and I get charged $100,000 a year for vCenter or for VMware, VMware to have that environment, I'm passing that cost along to the customers, and the customers, they're going to just go with it. They're going to pay the fee, or they're going to go somewhere else, and they're going to go to some other small mom and pop, let's say, that's going to have Hyper-V, but it's not the same as VMware. It's just not the same as far as I'm concerned, having worked it and having used it. And Proxmox is pretty much the closest thing you can think to using VMware right now, even though it's not really there yet, but it's the closest thing you got to VMware. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next one.